For thousands of years, humans had listened to the stars. They had built giant telescopes on mountains, giant radio dishes in deserts, giant hopes in their hearts. They listened for a whisper, a signal, a sign that they were not alone. They heard nothing. Silence, emptiness, loneliness. Generations came and went. Scientists were born, worked, and died. They listened. They analyzed. They hoped. The silence continued. Some gave up. "We are alone," they said. "There is no one out there." Others kept listening. They could not stop. The idea of being alone in the universe was too heavy, too sad, too lonely. Then one day, the silence broke. It happened at a small radio observatory in the middle of nowhere. A grad student was monitoring the data. She had been there for weeks. Nothing interesting. Just noise. Static. Silence. Then something changed. A pattern emerged. Clear. Powerful. Impossible to ignore. She called her professor. He came running. They watched the data together. The pattern repeated. Again. 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 It was not natural. It was not random. It was a message. The world learned about it within hours. The signal was real. The signal was from space. The signal was from intelligence. The message was simple. Short. Clear. You are not alone. We are coming. Prepare for contact. The world erupted. Governments scrambled. Scientists celebrated. Religious leaders prayed. News stations played the message on repeat. Social media exploded. People talked about nothing else. Everyone expected fear, panic, chaos. That was what the movies showed. That was what the books predicted. First contact would be terrifying. Humans would run and hide. They would build weapons. They would prepare for war. But something else happened. Something the aliens did not expect. Something the movies had not shown. Something the books had not predicted. Humans were not afraid. They were ready. Not because they had built weapons. Not because they had trained soldiers. Not because they had prepared for war. Because they had been waiting for this moment for thousands of years. They had imagined it, dreamed of it, hoped for it. They were tired of being alone. They were ready to meet their neighbors. A woman named Elena heard the news in her garden. She was old. Her hair was white. Her hands were rough. She had spent her life growing food. She had spent her life helping others. She looked up at the sky. She did not see the alien ships. They were still far away. But she felt them. She felt the change. "Finally," she whispered. "We have been waiting so long." She went inside. She started baking bread. Not because she was afraid. Because she wanted to be ready. When guests come, you prepare food. That was what neighbors did. That was what humans did. Around the world, other humans did the same. Bakers baked. Farmers harvested. Cooks prepared. They did not build bombs. They built tables. They did not dig bunkers. They planted gardens. They did not train soldiers. They trained welcomers. The governments tried to organize. They held meetings. They made plans. They debated protocols. But the people did not wait. They started cleaning their cities, fixing their roads, painting their signs. "Welcome, neighbors. We are glad you are here. Come in, we have bread." The aliens watched from afar. Their telescopes were powerful. They could see what humans were doing. They expected to see fear, panic, weapons. They saw something else. Gardens, tables, bread, signs of welcome. "Why are they not afraid?" the alien commander asked. "We are coming. We are strangers. They do not know us. They do not know if we are friends or enemies. Why are they not building weapons?" His scientists had no answer. They had studied many species. They had seen many first contacts. Always fear. Always panic. Always weapons. Never this. Never bread. Never welcome. Never kindness. "Perhaps they are naive," one scientist said. "Perhaps they do not understand the danger." "Or perhaps," said another, "they understand something we do not. Perhaps they know that fear does not protect, that weapons do not save, that kindness is the only thing that has ever worked." The commander was silent. He watched the humans, baking, gardening, painting signs. They looked happy, excited, hopeful. He had never seen a species react this way. He did not understand. But he was curious. "What is bread?" he asked. His scientists explained. Bread was food, made from grain, baked in an oven, shared among friends, a symbol of hospitality, of welcome. Of love. The commander was confused. Love. He had not expected love. He had expected fear. He had expected war. He had not expected love. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have much to learn from these humans. Perhaps they are not as primitive as we thought. Perhaps they are more advanced. In ways we do not understand. The fleet continued its journey. The aliens watched. The humans prepared. The galaxy held its breath. First contact was coming. But it would not be what anyone expected. Not a battle. Not a conquest. Not a disaster. A picnic. A garden. A loaf of bread. A question about family. The humans were ready. Not with weapons. With welcome. Not with walls. With tables. Not with fear. With hope. They had been waiting for thousands of years. They were tired of being alone. They were ready to meet their neighbors. And neighbors, they believed, deserved bread. Deserved tea. Deserved kindness. That was what they had prepared. That was what they would give. And the aliens, the humans hoped, would accept. Not as conquerors. As guests. As friends. As family. That was the human way. That was the only way they knew. That was the only way that had ever worked. The only way that ever would. The alien fleet was years away. The world had time to prepare. Governments held meetings. Scientists ran simulations. Military leaders made plans. They expected the worst. Aliens could be friendly. Aliens could be hostile. No one knew. So they prepared for everything. They built bunkers. Stockpiled weapons. Trained soldiers. They were ready for war. But the people did something else. While the governments prepared for battle, ordinary people prepared for something else. They built a welcome center. Not a military base. A building with large windows and comfortable chairs and a garden outside. Volunteers worked for months. They planted flowers. Painted walls. Set up tables. They wanted the aliens to feel welcome. To feel safe. To feel at home. The governments were confused. Why are you building a welcome center? They asked. We do not know if the aliens are friendly. They could be dangerous. They could be conquerors. They could be monsters. The people shrugged. They could also be neighbors, they said. Neighbors deserve a welcome. Neighbors deserve bread. Neighbors deserve kindness. We are not afraid. The governments did not understand. But they did not stop the people. They had their own preparations. Their own plans. Their own weapons. The people kept working. They baked bread. Thousands of loaves. Farmers grew extra grain. Bakers worked around the clock. The smell of fresh bread filled the cities. It was warm. It was sweet. It was hope. They brewed tea. Thousands of cups. They set up tea stations in every town. Every city. Every village. Anyone could have tea. Anyone could share tea. Anyone could sit and talk and wait together. They made signs. Hand-painted. Colorful. Beautiful. Welcome, neighbors. We are glad you are here. Come in, we have bread. Tell us about your family. Sit with us. Eat with us. Stay with us. Children drew pictures. Aliens holding hands with humans. Aliens sharing bread. Aliens smiling. They hung the pictures in the welcome center. On the walls. On the windows. On the doors. Musicians wrote songs. Songs about meeting new friends. Songs about sharing food. Songs about hope. They practiced every day. They wanted to be ready. When the aliens arrived, they would play music. Not war drums. Welcome songs. Poets wrote poems. Poems about the stars. About the silence. About the loneliness. About the joy of finally meeting someone new. They read the poems aloud in parks and squares. People listened. People cried. People hoped. The aliens watched from afar. Their telescopes were powerful. They saw the bunkers. The weapons. The soldiers. They expected that. That was normal. That was logical. That was what every species did. But they also saw something else. Something they did not expect. The welcome center. The bread. The tea. The signs. The children's drawings. The music. The poems. They were confused. Why are they not afraid? The alien commander asked. Why are they not building only weapons? Why are they building a welcome center? Why are they baking bread? Why are they writing songs? His scientists had no answers. They had studied many species. They had seen many first contacts. Always fear. Always weapons. Always walls. Never welcome. Never bread. Never songs. Perhaps they are naive, one scientist said. Perhaps they do not understand the danger. Or perhaps, said another, they understand something we do not. Perhaps they know that weapons do not make friends. Walls do not build trust. Fear does not create peace. Perhaps they know that the only way to make a friend is to be a friend. To offer bread. To share tea. To sing songs. To be kind. The commander was silent. He watched the humans. Baking. Painting. Singing. They looked happy. Excited. Hopeful. He had never seen a species react this way. He did not understand. But he was curious. What is bread? He asked again. He had asked before. He still did not fully understand. His scientists explained again. Bread was food. Made from grain. Baked in an oven. Shared among friends. A symbol of hospitality. Of welcome. Of love. The commander thought about this. Love. He had heard the word. He knew its definition. But he had never experienced it. His species did not love. They observed. They analyzed. They categorized. They did not love. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have much to learn from these humans. Perhaps they are not primitive. Perhaps they are advanced in ways we do not understand. Perhaps bread is more powerful than weapons. Perhaps welcome is stronger than walls. Perhaps kindness is the greatest force in the universe. His scientists were shocked. They had never heard their commander speak this way. He was always logical. Always efficient. Always cold. Now he sounded hopeful. Curious. Almost human. The fleet continued its journey. The aliens watched. The humans prepared. The governments built weapons. The people built a welcome center. The governments trained soldiers. The people baked bread. The governments planned for war. The people planned for friendship. The aliens did not know what to expect. They had studied many species. They had seen many first contacts. Always the same. Fear. Panic. Weapons. But humans were different. Humans were preparing for something else. Something the aliens had never seen. Something the aliens did not have a word for. Later, they would learn the word. The word was hospitality. The word was kindness. More powerful than weapons. More powerful than walls. More powerful than fear. Love built welcome centers. Baked bread. Brewed tea. Painted signs. Wrote songs. Love was why the humans were not afraid. Love was why they were ready. Love was why they were different. The commander looked at the screen. He saw a human woman. Old. White hair. Rough hands. She was baking bread. She was smiling. She looked happy. She looked peaceful. She looked kind. I want to meet her, the commander said. When we land, I want to meet the bread baker. I want to understand. I want to learn. I want to know what love is. His scientists were silent. They did not understand. But they were also curious. The humans had something they did not. Something they could not measure. Bread. Tea. Welcome. Love. The humans were ready. The aliens were not. But they would learn. They would grow. They would change. Because the humans had prepared not for war. For friendship. And friendship, the galaxy was about to learn, was the only thing that had ever saved anyone. The only thing that ever would. How a species with no power became the most dangerous in the galaxy. Part 2. The picnic that changed everything. The alien fleet arrived without warning. Thousands of ships filled Earth's sky, dark, massive, silent. They blotted out the sun, casting entire cities into shadow. Power grids flickered. Birds went quiet. Humanity looked up and waited. Across the galaxy, first contact always followed the same pattern. Fear. Panic. Resistance. The aliens expected chaos. Instead, they found a picnic. Their ships descended into a wide green field. Grass swayed in a gentle breeze. Trees stood calm and undisturbed. No barricades. No weapons. No soldiers. Just people. Families. Children. Elderly. Sitting on blankets. Sharing food. Laughing. Talking. Waiting. Commander Vex stepped down from his ship, armored and prepared for conflict. His soldiers formed a perimeter, weapons ready, scanning for threats. There were none. Only smiles. A woman stood and walked toward him. She was old. Her hands were rough from work. Her hair silver under the dim sky. In her hands, she carried a basket of warm bread. "Welcome," she said gently. "We've been waiting for you." Vex froze. He had trained for invasion scenarios, diplomatic negotiations, even planetary resistance. But this? This was not in any manual. "We are here to establish contact," he said stiffly. The words felt wrong the moment he spoke them. The woman nodded warmly. Of course you are. You must be tired. Come, sit. Eat. She held out the bread. Warm. Fresh. Real. Vex hesitated. His instincts screamed caution. His training demanded distance. But something else, something unfamiliar, made him reach out. He took the bread. He tasted it. And everything changed. It was alive. Soft. Warm. Full of something his species had long abandoned. For centuries, they had consumed only nutrient paste, efficient, tasteless, lifeless. This was different. This was care. Sit, she said again. And this time, he did. His soldiers followed. The humans welcomed them without hesitation. Tea was poured. Bread was passed. Blankets were shared. Conversations began. Not about tactics. Not about territory. But about life. What's your name? Where are you from? Do you have family? When was the last time you laughed? The questions hit harder than any weapon. The alien soldiers struggled to answer. They had forgotten. Forgotten laughter. Forgotten memories. Forgotten that they were more than soldiers. One young alien broke first. I miss my mother, he whispered. Silence fell. Then the old woman, Elena, placed her hand over his. Tell me about her, she said. And he did. He spoke of a garden on a distant world. Of laughter. Of warmth. Of a home lost to time and war. His voice trembled. His eyes filled. He cried. For the first time in centuries. Around him, others began to do the same. Stories poured out. Memories resurfaced. Pain long buried came to light. And with it, something else. Relief. Vex watched it all unfold, unable to comprehend. This was not diplomacy. This was not strategy. This was something far more dangerous. Why are you doing this? He asked Elena quietly. We are strangers. We could be your enemies. Elena smiled, as if the answer were obvious. Strangers are just neighbors we haven't met yet. Vex frowned. We are from different stars. Different histories. Different worlds. She poured him more tea. And now we're sharing the same table. Vex fell silent. He looked around. His soldiers, once disciplined, emotionless, were laughing, crying, talking with humans like old friends. There was no fear. No hostility. Only connection. We thought we were strong, Vex said slowly. We believed we needed no one. But we were alone. Elena nodded. So were we. She looked up at the fleet still hovering above. For thousands of years, we waited. Wondered if we were the only ones. We weren't afraid when you came. Why? Vex asked. Because we were tired of being alone. The words struck deeper than any weapon. Vex felt something break inside him. Not weakness. Not fear. Something else. Something human. You are not alone anymore, Elena said softly. There is always room at the table. And for the first time in his life, Vex believed it. Tears fell freely down his face. Around him, an army transformed into something unrecognizable. Not conquerors. Not invaders. Guests. Neighbors. Friends. The picnic lasted until the stars came out. Music played softly in the background. Alien soldiers listened. Some smiled. Some cried. Some held hands with humans they had just met. First contact did not end in war. It began with bread. With tea. With a question about family. And in that moment, the galaxy learned a truth no weapon could match. Humans had no great power. No superior technology. No overwhelming force. But they could do something far more dangerous. They could make enemies, sit down and feel. And once that happened, there was no going back. How a species with no power became the most dangerous in the galaxy. Part 3. The ones who stayed. The aliens were supposed to observe. That was their mission. Study. Analyze. Categorize. Report. They had done it for centuries across countless worlds. Always the same method. Always the same distance. They never interfered. Never connected. But Earth broke that rule. Because humans would not let them stay distant. They asked questions. Simple ones. What's your name? Where are you from? Do you have family? What do you hope? At first, the aliens resisted. My designation is irrelevant. My origin is classified. My personal data is not required. Cold. Efficient. Safe. But humans did something strange. They waited. They didn't push. Didn't demand. Didn't analyze. They just listened and asked again. A child approached one of the alien soldiers. She was small, holding a piece of paper. A drawing, crude, colorful, unmistakably innocent. It showed an alien with a wide smile. "What's your name?" she asked. The soldier froze. He had a designation, a rank, a function, but a name that belonged to a different life. A distant memory surfaced, faint, fragile, almost lost. "Kale," he whispered. The word felt unfamiliar, like dust being cleared from something long forgotten. The child smiled brightly. "Hi, Kale. I'm Lily. This is for you." She handed him the drawing. Kale stared at it. No data, no logic, no purpose. And yet, it meant something. Something warm. Something he couldn't explain. Behind him, other aliens watched. They saw the moment. They saw Kale hesitate, then hold the drawing carefully. They saw something impossible. A smile. Small. Uncertain. But real. Then the questions spread. "What's your name?" One by one, the aliens answered. Names long buried returned to life. Not designations. Not functions. Names. With names came memories. And with memories came something far more dangerous. Emotion. They began to talk. At first, cautiously, then freely. They spoke of frozen worlds and endless storms. Of planets where the sun never rose. Of homes left behind for duty. For war. For purpose. They spoke of families. Mothers who sang. Fathers who taught. Siblings who laughed. They spoke of fear. Fear of failure. Fear of isolation. Fear of being forgotten. And they spoke of hope. Hope they didn't even know they still carried. The humans listened. They didn't interrupt. Didn't judge. Didn't try to fix anything. They just stayed. And that was enough. The aliens began to cry. Not from pain. From release. Tears they hadn't shed in centuries fell freely. And for the first time in ages, they felt lighter. Then they laughed. Awkward at first. Unfamiliar. But real. A child made a funny face. A soldier tripped over a blanket. Someone told a story about a stubborn animal. The laughter spread. Not calculated. Not controlled. Just human. Commander Vex watched it all. His soldiers, disciplined, precise, unbreakable, were changing. Becoming something else. Something he didn't understand. Or maybe, something he had forgotten. A human sat beside him. "What do you hope?" she asked gently. Vex hesitated. Hope was inefficient. Hope was illogical. Hope was dangerous. But the question lingered. And so he answered. "I hope. I am not alone," he said quietly. The words surprised even him. "I thought I was strong. Independent. Complete. But I was wrong. I was lonely." The human woman, Elena, took his hand. "You're not alone anymore," she said. Simple. Certain. True. And just like that, something inside Vex broke. Not weakness. Not fear. Something deeper. He cried. Not as a commander. Not as an observer. But as someone who had finally been seen. The weeks passed. The aliens didn't leave. They couldn't. They had come to observe humanity. Instead, they were the ones being understood. Orders came from their home world. Return. Mission complete. Data sufficient. Vex stared at the message. For the first time in his life, he hesitated. "The mission is not complete," he replied. Confusion came instantly. "You have gathered data. You have observed. What remains?" Vex looked around. At humans sharing bread. At soldiers laughing with children. At conversations that had no purpose, yet meant everything. "We have not learned the most important thing," he said. Silence followed. "What thing?" his superiors demanded. Vex spoke slowly. "We came to study them. But we don't understand them. Not yet." "You have enough information." "No," Vex said firmly. "We have information. Not understanding." He paused. Then said something no alien commander had ever said before. "We need to stay until we become like them." His superiors did not understand. They couldn't. Because they had never been welcomed. Never been invited. Never been loved. But Vex had. He looked at Elena, baking bread, humming softly. He felt something unfamiliar. "Peace. I don't want to leave," he said quietly. Elena smiled without looking up. "You don't have to," she said. "There's always room at the table." And that was it. No negotiation. No treaty. No conditions. Just space. For neighbors. For friends. For family. Vex took the bread she handed him. Warm. Soft. Real. He smiled. And for the first time in centuries, he felt at home. The galaxy would later call it the most dangerous moment in history. Not because a war began, but because it didn't. Because humans had done the impossible. They didn't defeat their enemies. They changed them. And once that happens, no empire can survive the same way again. How a species with no power became the most dangerous in the galaxy. Final part, the return home. The aliens returned, but they were not the same. They carried data, reports, observations, but also something else. Something no system could record. Bread, tea, questions about family, kindness, love. When they stood before their council, they did not speak of Earth's defenses or weaknesses. They did not describe military strength or strategic value. They spoke about a table. A simple table, with bread and tea. The council was confused. "This is your report," one demanded. "Where are the threat assessments? The probabilities of resistance? The strategic analysis?" Commander Vex stepped forward. "They are not what we expected," he said calmly. "They are not a threat in the way we understand." "Explain." Vex paused. "They were not waiting for enemies," he said. "They were waiting for neighbors." Silence filled the chamber. "They welcomed us," he continued. "Fed us. Asked about our families. They saw soldiers, and treated them like guests." "That is irrational," another council member snapped. "They should have been afraid." "They were not," Vex replied. "Because they were lonely." The word echoed through the chamber. Unfamiliar. Uncomfortable. Dangerous. "They looked at the stars for thousands of years," Vex said, hoping someone would answer. "When we arrived, we were not invaders to them. We were the answer." The council shifted uneasily. "You have been compromised," one accused. "Emotion has clouded your judgment." Vex shook his head. "No," he said quietly. "Emotion has clarified it." He reached into his uniform and placed something on the table. A drawing. Simple. Crude. An alien, smiling. "A child gave me this," he said. "No analysis. No expectation. Just kindness." The council stared. They did not understand. But they could not ignore it. "What do you propose?" the leader finally asked. Vex took a breath. "We do not conquer them," he said. "Then what?" "We learn from them." The chamber erupted. Absurd. Dangerous. Unnecessary. But Vex stood firm. "We have mastered logic," he said. "We have perfected observation. And yet, we are alone." Silence fell again. "We have ships, weapons, systems, but we have no neighbors, no connection, no home." That word lingered. Home. No one spoke, because deep down, they understood. The council never reached a decision. They argued, delayed, avoided. But Vex did not wait. Years later, he returned to Earth. Not as a commander, not as an observer, as something new, a visitor, a neighbor. He landed in the same field. Green grass, gentle wind, quiet sky. Nothing had changed. And yet, everything had. Elena was there, older now, slower, but her eyes still warm. "Welcome back," she said, smiling. "We saved you a seat. No questions, no conditions. Just a place at the table." They sat in the garden, bread between them, tea steaming gently in the cool air. For a while, they said nothing. They didn't need to. "How is your family?" Elena asked softly. Vex hesitated. "I don't know," he admitted. "I haven't spoken to them in a long time." She nodded. "That happens," she said. "Sometimes we forget what matters." Vex looked down at the bread in his hands. "I thought I knew everything," he said. "I thought observation was enough. But I was wrong." Elena poured him more tea. "Understanding isn't something you watch," she said. "It's something you share." Vex looked around. The garden, the table, the quiet. "I don't think I have a home anymore," he said. Elena smiled gently. "Home isn't a place," she said. "It's where you're welcomed." She pushed the bread toward him. "You have one here." Something inside Vex shifted. Not dramatically, not violently, just quietly. Like something finally falling into place. "I want to learn," he said. "Good," Elena replied. She handed him a fresh loaf. "Start with this." And he did. He learned to bake, to brew tea, to ask questions that didn't have answers, to listen without analyzing, to sit without needing a reason. He stopped observing. He started living. Years passed. More aliens came. Curious at first, then returning, then staying. Not for data, for something else. The galaxy didn't change overnight. But slowly, it began to soften. Less fear, less distance, more tables, more conversations, more neighbors. Because something had spread. Not a weapon, not a virus. Something far more powerful. Connection. And the galaxy finally understood what made humans dangerous. It wasn't strength. It wasn't technology. It wasn't strategy. It was this. They could turn strangers into family. They could make enemies sit down. And feel. And once someone feels, they change. And once they change, the galaxy changes with them. That was humanity's power. That was their weapon. That was their gift. And for the first time in history, the galaxy was grateful.